All right, thanks for joining us on Fresno Forward. We've got an interview we did with Michael Shaw the other day. He came into Fresno, and he really broke it down to a lot of people about Agenda 21. And if you haven't heard about Agenda 21, you need to start doing some research, and we're going to jumpstart you right here. And Mr. Shaw is really going to just kind of lay it out for you. You can visit his website, freedomadvocates.org. There's a lot of good information there, and they're going to have some custom info just for the Valley in regards to Agenda 21. So keep your eye on that. And okay, we're going to go ahead and roll the interview. All right, we're back here at Fresno Forward. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We've got Michael Shaw tonight. He just did a presentation here in Fresno about Agenda 21. And Michael, thank you for coming in tonight.
My pleasure.
Can you lead us off a little bit of an introduction about Agenda 21 and what people need to know about it?
Well, Agenda 21 is an international program. It originated at the United Nations. 178 nations signed on to implement Agenda 21. This is back in 1992. The U.S. under George Bush Sr. Is signed up, and we've been implementing Agenda 21 since then. The way it implements is through federal agencies. So when Bush came back, he infused every federal agency with their globalist One World Agenda 21 protocol. And for instance, today you could go to the website for USDA, and they've got over 220 references to Agenda 21 in their policy-making guide. So when Clinton became president, he established the President's Council for Sustainable Development, which took every federal agency and made their primary focus the implementation of this globalist One World Order program. And it comes out in so many ways, in land use, in our communities, in our educational process, that that's where I come up with 1,000 tentacles.
Right. Yeah. You talked about it's like an octopus on steroids. There's just so many reaches into our personal lives and beyond. So wrapping our mind around all this is going to take a little bit.
It actually, once you swallow the pill, once you say, oh my, the federal government is controlled by internationalists, and the internationalists have given policies and procedures to our local governments, so that our local governments have taken the full pill of this internationalism. Once you accept that we're in a deep hole, things get much brighter, because now you can understand the craziness that's going on in our society and the nonsense that's going on around the world and the threats that we all face because of that. But then you can begin to work with others to reestablish the American traditions here at your local community.
It's like a focus point that you can come back to for strength and to go out. Right?
That's right.
Now you talked a little bit about the global biodiversity assessment.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, one of the processes from the internationalist community is to create a biodiversity regime. And biodiversity means that all species are of equal value. In fact, in their writings, they say that humans are actually of a less important species than many others. And the whole premise of Agenda 21 is that human beings are useless eaters, and most of us need to be eliminated. In fact, Agenda 21 calls for massive population reductions. And so this is a very serious matter that affects not only our politics and our economics, but our very lives.
Yeah, you were saying before during the presentation that the world population under the plan would be reduced to 1 billion, down from 7 billion.
Yes. They have a writing, there's nothing conspiratorial here. This is the Global Biodiversity Assessment Report, which says that if the world is to remain with industrialization at the present North American level, that the world's human population would be reduced 85% down to 1 billion people.
Does that have anything to do with the Earth Charter, or is that another?
Well, the Earth Charter is one of the foundation documents for Agenda 21. Now, the Earth Charter, for people who don't know, is a short document. The globalists kind of call it their Bible. The authors of this document include Stephen Rockefeller, Mikhail Gorbachev, and Maurice Strong, who's the Secretary General at UN Agenda 21 conferences. And each of these authors has proclaimed that the Earth Charter is to replace the Ten Commandments. So this is what's guiding and directing our governments today. In fact, you say, well, this really can't be. I'll say, well, find yourself a third grader and ask him if he knows about the Earth Charter, because this is being taught in all American schools, or not all, but in most American
public education
schools
systems.
these days.
Yeah. Now, also, one important thing that we liked what you said is this is not a left, really, or a right issue, because, well, it's both, actually, because both sides are in on it. So it's important not to get stuck being in the right wing and blaming the left wing, or the left wing blaming the right wing, but realizing that we have to come together on this and transcend this left-right paradigm to take down Agenda 21 and the legislation that it's bringing in.
Well, I think that's right. Agenda 21 is a unique mix of a communist social system and a fascist economic system. So you get contributors to this dynamic coming from the left and the right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you end up voting for George Bush, you end up furthering the multinational corporate interests.
Right.
Same with Mitt Romney. If you Google Mitt Romney plus sustainable development, a synonym for Agenda 21, you'll get more references than you do if you Google Barack Obama and sustainable development. So it's clear that both, and that's why we don't hear about it, because the opposing voices on the edges of the political spectrum, none of them talk about Agenda 21.
Mm-hmm.
They're both taking a step by step lower and lower and lower down to the sustainable development world, which really is a government-controlled society intended by the advocates to be a one-world government society.
Okay. What about B corporations? That was something I'd never heard before. Can you explain a little bit about B corporations?
Well, B corporations, or benefit corporations, is a fad sweeping the country right now. It comes out of three guys from Stanford who established this entity called B Labs. And so they've come up with a new corporate form, which is to devote itself to equity and environmental issues. And to get a B corporation arrangement with the state, the entity has to be approved by a company, the same company as these three Stanford fellows have, called B Labs. And so they will approve certain corporations for this special status under now California law. And that special status will allow these corporations to go to the front of the line on permits or tax incentives and all kinds of benefits that these corporations will get at the expense of everybody else who has to wait at the back of the line. And so to become a B corporation, you have to specifically, under the statute, you have to agree to sustainability or Agenda 21 policies. And this is sweeping the nation. 7 states have already approved B corporations, and a number of others are about to.
Wow. What about regionalism? Can you explain how this, the title of the presentation was, globalism versus America, but how it's coming down to a national level and to a regional level and to a local level. And it's happening just right here in Fresno. You showed a number of websites just for Fresno where this is happening. And it's the San Joaquin Regional Council, was one of the places you were talking about, one of the organizations. So just can you speak about the regionalism of it and how it's coming down to a local level and how people will see it?
Well, regionalism is a new system of government in America. We all know, we learned in 8th grade, that we've got 3 levels of government: federal, state, and local. But what's been arranged over the last 30 years or more has been a system of regional councils that cover the entire United States. These are created by the federal government. They're called councils of governments or metropolitan planning organizations. They virtually cover the entire country, and these are the organizations that tell your local government what they can and can't do. Things like city boundaries are determined by these regional federalized outfits. And what these MPOs and COGS have done over recent years is they have fully deployed the Agenda 21 program into communities everywhere. So we're getting globalism through the federal government and through its outreach that's created through these regional outfits, these councils of governments and these metropolitan planning organizations, and that brings all the money and all the policy necessary to turn your community, as is happening in Fresno, into what I say is a globalist, is an outpost of the globalist new order.
Let's see, I've got some questions here from some of the people that were sitting around me. I kind of talked with them a little bit. They were hoping you could speak a little bit to ClimateGate and yeah, can you talk about ClimateGate a little bit and global warming?
Well, I'll first say why I think that's important. It's important because these regional organizations are all vested with climate change, global warming incentives and legislative proposals for dealing with climate change. So what we have are these federalized regional organizations and international organizations, NGOs like the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, who use climate change to force your city into ordinances that make it difficult to use a car. You say, well, what does that mean? I say, well, things like traffic calming, which create bends in the road and outsets of curbs and reduce the number of lanes from 2 to 1 or from 4 to 2, are happening all over the country. It comes through these organizations, and it's always, these organizations are always justifying their actions based upon global warming. We've got to get ourselves out of the car. We've got to get into a high-speed rail. We've got to get into light rail. We've got to get into more bus service. Get the people out of their cars. That's the message, all justified by global warming. And of course, as most people now know, global warming has turned out to be a fraud. And yet our local governments, thanks to the regional outfits and this and organizations like this ICLEI organization, the International Council Organization, are creating all of your local policies as though global warming was real and that it was man-made, and therefore we need to reduce population and get you out of your cars and reduce food production and everything else.
So I can take it you're against the high-speed rail project that's coming through Fresno County right now?
Well, you know, the high-speed rail project coming through Fresno County is part of an entire West Coast program designed to do this for the whole coast, because the idea is that in this new world, transportation will only be on public transportation, and you know, people will be living in their smart growth communities, venturing outside very infrequently, but when they do, it will be on the train.
Wow. What about Obama's Rural Council of 25 federal agencies? Have you heard of that?
Oh yes, I have. I mean, that's a dastardly thing. You know, it shows how our government has stopped working, because here we have a dictator who simply decrees that all rural lands are now subject to federal agency control and manipulation. And he's very clear in this announcement that the Rural Council is designed to establish sustainable principles in rural America. And what that means is that if you're a landowner in rural America, you're going to be relocated to smart growth unless you become a partner of the New World Order.
Well, all right, everybody. We want to thank Michael Shaw for coming in tonight. He's the president of the Freedom Advocates. You can check him out at freedomadvocates.org. And we just really encourage everybody to do some research about Agenda 21 and some of the other things that you heard Mr. Shaw talk about earlier. And, you know, thanks again. We wish you the best of luck, and take care and stay safe out there.
Well, I wish that all of us you know, are able to come through this, and that America can be what America's intended to be.
Great. All right. Thank you, Michael. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Monday, October 31st, 2011, and that's the way it is. I'm Brock Tatum, and I'll see you in the forward.